Here's the pre-calculus chapter 2 partner test. This test you are allowed and encouraged to use the graphing calculator as much as possible. So, the test is tomorrow, individual test. I want you to beat that score that's on your paper. That's more important, is to beat that. Show some growth. All right, number 1, determine graphically the number of solutions. Tell me what to do. How do you know how many solutions there are? You are going to type the equation 2x to the 4th plus 3x squared. Whoops. See what I did? Did you see what I did? Easy to do that. Make sure I thought I hit it down, but I guess it didn't. So plus 3x squared, then arrow down, minus 2x squared, minus 4x, and then plus 2. Now be careful. Make sure you change these to opposite. Now when you hit graph, how many times does this hit the x-axis? Did I type something wrong?
Yeah,
It should be 3x to the third.
Oh, that's why. It's 3x cubed. My bad. It hits twice. I accidentally typed that wrong. That should be a 3. So, anyways, you guys know how to do this one. Bring everything to one side, and I just want to know the number of solutions. I don't want to know how what they are. Now these, there's 4 of these. I'm probably only going to give you 3 of these instead of 4. Okay, but I wanted to hit all of them because I'm not going to tell you which ones I'm going to do. Now, what's the difference in how you type this one in, this one in, this one in, and this one in? They're different. For this one, with more than one radical and numbers, you're going to type it in as x cubed plus 2, then what? Then what?
Minus 4.
Good, and then?
Minus square root of x plus y.
Okay. Now, when you type that in your calculator, you should see it's going to hit the x-axis at 3.58. Now, does everyone know how to get the 0? You hit menu, analyze graph, 0, left and right bound. Everyone's got that? We did a lot of these. How would you type number? So this answer is 3.58. Can you do me a favor and type this equation in for me? And can you type in the next one for me? Not without the radical. Okay, so let's do number 3. How would you type this one in your calculator? Y equals what? Absolute value. And you better, whatever calculator you're using, make sure you know how to get the absolute value. Now notice how I brought the 4 over. Okay, so Jeremy typed it in for me. And this is the picture he got. So now, how do you find, how many answers are there? How many are there? How many? 4. 4. How are you going to find them? And I want you to start from the left. How do you get these zeros? You hit menu, analyze graph, 0, and however if you want to do left and right bound, so if you want to do -3, and you can do that, you can arrow over and see where it's hitting. Where is it hitting? -2.43. You have to do that 4 times. So the answers are, for this one, -2.43, -1.53, 1.88, and -0.35. Those are your 4 answers. This should come before that one. Okay, number 4, how does that one get typed in the calculator? What do you type in? Only the stuff underneath the radical. Do not, on this one, type in the square where you won't see the answer. So for number 4, you're just gonna type in x cubed plus 2x squared minus x plus 8.
Do you do them for all of them like that?
Only the one with a single radical set equal to 0.
Okay.
Only that one. And this answer, if you hit menu, analyze graph, 0, it's between,
Negative 3 point.
there it is, right there, negative 3.13, right there. Negative 3.13. And number 5. What are you gonna do on number 5? Can you type in, I want you to type in number 6 for me. Number 5, what are you gonna type in? The whole thing?
Just the top.
Just the top. Just x cubed minus 4x plus 1. And where does this thing cross the x-axis? There's 3 answers on this one. The answers are negative 2.11, 0.25, and 1.86. Can you type in?
Why do you only do the top?
What do you mean by you won't do it? Oh, because when you have a fraction set equal to 0, this must be equal to 0.
Okay.
In order for this fraction to equal 0, the numerator is set equal to 0. Why don't you set the denominator equal to 0? Because this is where, at the zeros, this is undefined. So for this one, you just want to make sure you don't get, and we did these on the last test, negative 3, you don't want x to be negative 3, and you don't want it to be 2. You just want to make sure that the answers you get, which you don't get those 2 answers anyway, you get those 3. Why would you not want to use these answers? Because it's undefined at that spot. Okay, what kind of problem is number 6? What kind of problem is this? It's an inequality. So what you're going to type in your calculator is x to the 4th plus 10x cubed plus 21x squared minus 40x minus 80. What did I do?
Just put in the
You,
lenses.
brought it to the other side.
You brought everything to the one side. Jeremy helped me type this in. What this picture looks like is this. Now I want to know, what are these 2 zeros? I need this 0 and I need this 0. So you're going to go through, like you did on problems 1 through 5. You're going to come up with these 2 zeros. This one is negative 1.53. And this one ends up being 1.89. And you guys did great in this section. So now I want to know, where is this graph, this function, less than or equal to 0? Where's the answer? Below, right here. It's that part. Now, am I going to include those numbers? Yeah, so I'm going to use brackets. Negative 1.53, comma, 1.89, and I'm going to bracket both of those numbers because of this little bar here. It's including them. If this bar was not here, what would I have used instead of these brackets? Parentheses. Correct. Okay, number 7, how will I type this? Did you have a question? Question, anyone? Did anyone have a question? Okay, number 7, how will I type this in my calculator? 8 minus, so go to your graph, f of x. You're going to type 8 minus 7 minus 5x, and then what? Minus 3. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? I want the x-intercepts, these 2 numbers. And how do I get these 2 numbers? you go to menu, you go to analyze graph, and you go to 0. And it's between here, there's one of them, 0.4. And then the other one, menu. And I could have done it like you did before in the middle, but I didn't think of that. Analyze graph, 0. This one is 2.4. So I've established my 2 zeros. This is the picture of it. Just like this. So this 0 is 0.4, and this 0 is 2.4. Correct? So I want to know, where is the graph greater than 0? Where is it greater than 0? It's that part right there. So how will I write this answer in interval notation? Parentheses. Now, what if I switched this inequality sign, let's say I had a less than 0. What if this said 8 minus absolute value minus 3 is less than 0? What would my answer look like then? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 2.4 comma infinity. What if this were less than or equal to 0? What would be different? These two would be brackets. Do you put brackets with infinity? No. So does everybody understand that one? Okay, next one. These story problems. If you read the directions, it says 4 blank. You guys were asking me, why do you have 2 blanks? Well, you got to read the instructions. It says for A, determine the system of equations. And you could even put just a single equation, and I'll show you what you could have done, necessary to solve the following problem. And then for B, you're going to answer the question. So now, I want you to write these 2 equations. What is the sum of 2 numbers equaling 25? What would you write? And the sum of their squares is 325. What are you going to write? Now, these 2 can go on line A. Or what you could have done, you can solve this. I would solve this for probably y or x. It doesn't matter. If you solve this equation for y, you're going to get y is equal to 25 minus x. And then you would substitute this right here. And I had quite a few people ask me, well, aren't the x's going to cancel out? No, they're not. The reason they're not is because when you square this binomial, you end up with a positive x squared. You got to think of this as 25 minus x times 25 minus x. This is, a lot of you guys were asking me, well, don't they cancel? Well, when you FOIL this, you're going to get a positive x squared. And x squared plus x squared is really 2x squared. So on line A, you could have actually put this, because this is what you're basically going to type into your calculator. So if you type, can one of you guys type this in your calculator for me? But don't hit graph yet. So you're going to type x squared plus quantity 25 minus x quantity squared equals 325. You don't have to do this by hand. You can use your calculator. Squared minus 325. Okay. All right, so that's exactly how you type it in, and then hit enter. Now, you kind of don't see anything, do you? So if you hit menu, zoom, out, and there's your two answers. What are you gonna get? What are these two? Where it hits the x-axis? This is 10, and that ends up being 15. So, you don't have to show me any work, only if you want to. I already tested you on the non-calculator part for chapter 2. These are the more, I want to use technology here. So the answers are 10 and 15. Those are the two answers. Now, on line A, I don't care if you write this equation, or you could just leave it as these two, and I'm fine. Are you good with this one? Okay, number 9. There's actually, this is a mixture problem. You've got 10 quarts of fluid. One of your fluids is 30%. On the weak side, it's antifreeze. We want to put some of this and some pure antifreeze, which is strong stuff. So we want to mix some of this one and some of this one so that our new mixture is 40%. So am I going to put half and half? No. Isn't it weaker? It's on 40% is closer to 30% than 100%, right? So my guess is I'm going to use less of the 30%. I'm sorry, less of the 100% and more of the 30% because it's weaker. So we're going to strengthen our solution by adding some pure antifreeze. Okay, so what are your two equations? How many quarts of fluid do you have? If we call this X and we call this Y, how many quarts do we have?
I'm trying to slide this
10. Now the next equation is how much of each do you have? What's the strength of this first one? 0.30x. What's the strength of the other one? And we want this new mixture to be 40%, but you gotta do 40% times 10. Those are your two equations. Now how you solve them, I don't care. You could solve one for Y and plug it into the second one, or you could use systems of, you could actually do this one by hand. How do you do this one by hand? Let's do this one by hand. So the top equation stays the same. How do you alter this equation right here? What is 40% of 10? So you have 0.3x plus 1y equals 4. Now I don't care if you subtract these, you're going to end up getting, for this one, x ends up being 60 over 7, which if you converted this to a decimal, it's about 8.57. And this, the y one ends up being 10/7, which that's the 100% one, which is approximately 1.43. Now, if you added these up, 1.43 plus 8.57, what should you get? 10 quarts. So can you understand that you're going to take this 30% solution, and you're gonna fill up a container that goes up to 10 quarts. 8.57 liters or quarts of it is going to be this mixture, and only 1.43 is going to be the 100%. And your solution, you will have 10 quarts of a solution that's about 40% of strength. Does that make sense?
Can you zoom out so I can?
Zoom out. Yes, I can.
Thank you.
And I will put these on Weebly. I'll put a blank one in my answer key on Weebly. Is that okay? So, for your two equations for this one, I would write x plus y equals 10 and 0.3x plus 1y equals 4. That would be good for me. And your answers are, and label 8.57 of the 30% solution and 1.43 of the 100%. Label your answers, unless it's just numbers. 10 and 15, they have to write their numbers, I know that. Okay. Huh? Question?
Oh, no, I said this one right.
Number 10, okay, you are a builder, and you've got this pretty landscaping going on, you've got flowers. You got flowers. Now, what does this flower bed measure? 26 by 42. What we're gonna do is put grass, and the grass is uniform all the way around. We're gonna call it X, because we don't know how wide it is. So it's X each way. So now, are you gonna put grass on your flowers? You wanna be cutting this? No. You wanna leave this just flowers. So we only wanna put grass around this area, right here. So what your job is to do is to figure, what's this measurement right here? From here to here. Well, if this is 42, and this is X, and this is X, what's this measurement right here? Uh-huh. Now, if I was not putting grass on all 4 sides, maybe just 2 sides, it'd be 42 plus 1x. Does everyone understand that? Now, what's this measurement right here? If this is 26, and this is X, and this is X, what's it from here to here? Uh-huh. So now, if I do length times width, what am I actually putting grass on? If I do this times this, I'm actually putting grass on everything. Do you want a grass, put seed on your flowers? No, so what do we have to do? We have to subtract the area of the garden. Because we do not, that's what that means, do not want to put grass on your garden. And how much grass seed do we have? So what is that gonna do? That's your A. You're gonna type that in your calculator, but swing 400 over. Anyone have it typed in their calculator yet? Type it in your calculator, and you should see where it hits the x-axis is 2.72. What does that mean? Read the question. It says, how wide should the grass be? I want this measurement. It's not asking, I think some of you guys, I think this was a little confusing. Some of you guys gave me the dimensions of this whole thing. You gave me this, and I guess that can be interpreted the same. But I just want, for tomorrow, I want this width. I want this X value. How wide is the grass? How wide should the grass be? A lot of times, story problems are, it's just the interpretation. So, the reason why I wrote this here is because that was not enough room. I'll give you more room tomorrow. Now, what did I say? If I only wanted to do one side, what's different? This would be 1x, not 2x. Okay, number 11 is just like the fluid problem, the mixture. But instead we're using money. We've got a total of $4,000 and we're investing it in 2 stocks. One stock is 12%, one stock is 4%, but we want to do one stock and we want 9%. Okay, so can someone tell me one equation? Equals 4,000. And then the second equation is going to be 0.12x plus 0.04y equals 0.09 times 4,000. Bless you.
Thank you.
Those are your 2 equations. Now instead of 4,000 times 0.09, what's this number? 360. So you can have that instead. Now, how do you solve this problem? It's up to you. I'm not teaching systems of equations and how to solve them. We did all that in 9th grade. We did it in 10th grade. We did this. We showed you all the different ways. You can move the decimal 2 places over, add 2 zeros here. You could solve this for y or x and plug it into the other one. It's up to you, but the 2 answers that you should get $2,500 and $1,500. What you end up getting is this is your y, this 2,500 is your x value, and x is your 12% account. And 1,500 is your y value, and that's your 4% account. Now you guys, look at your answers. Do they add up to be 4,000? This should make sense. Your 2 numbers shouldn't add up to be 50,000. You're investing 4,000, so it works. Okay, number 12. A toy rocket is fired straight up from the ground level. This equation will be given to you. Now, if you blast something up in the air, blast it from below, your velocity, if you blast it up, it's going to be positive. You just got to know this. If you blast something down, it's going to be negative. So up, down, and if you simply drop something, it's 0. So if I throw something up in the air, my velocity is 0, positive. And that's what I'm doing in this one. I'm blasting it up. So this is going to be 80 for my VO. Now, what are these 2 H's? This H sub O is where is the object located from the ground. Where is it when you're blasting it? Is it on the ground? If it's on the ground, H sub O, it's on the ground level, you would put a 0 here. This H right here is the time that you're going to find when it reaches that certain height. It says, when will the rocket reach 64 feet off the ground? So this equation is going to be, we want to know when it's going to reach 64 feet off the ground. And it is currently on the ground. So this HO is where is the object. And this is when it reaches that height. So this is the equation. And how could I change this? I could write negative 16t squared plus 80t minus 64. Type this in your calculator, and what you're going to see is that it hits at 1 second and at 4 seconds. There's 2 answers. Now, if it said, when will the rocket first reach 64 feet off the ground, 1 second would be your answer. Now, why are there 2 answers? So, here you have your rocket. You're on the ground. This is time, and this is height. So, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So when is it going to reach a height of, what did we say? 64 feet. So here's 64 feet. So what happens is here's your rocket, and this is what's happening. Whoops, sorry, go straight up. So, whoops, I didn't draw that very. So something like this, 64 feet. When is it going to reach 64 feet? At 1 second, and then it goes up higher, and then at 4 seconds. Sorry, I didn't draw this very good. But 1 and 4 seconds are the 2 times. And these will be your x-intercepts. Why are they your x-intercepts? Because I set this equal to 0. So 1 and 4 seconds. Now this one, it's asking you, when will the rocket hit the ground? So what's going to change now? The rocket is still being blasted at 80 feet per second. It's still on the ground when you blast it, but I want to know when it hits the ground. So that's that equation. And when you type this in your calculator, you're going to see a picture like this. So what are these two answers right here? 0 and 5. What does 0 mean? Well, at 0 seconds, the rocket is on the ground. That's understood. When will it reach on the ground? Before you do anything to it, and at 5 seconds. This is really the answer I want, because we all know that at 0 seconds it's on the ground. Questions? And the last one. Cindy has cashews that are $3.50 a pound, and peanuts are $2 a pound. This is another mixture problem. How much of each must she mix? She wants to put some cashews and some peanuts into a container, and she needs 60 pounds of them. So can you give me one equation? C, cashews plus pecans equals 60. Now, how much are the cashews selling for? $3.50. How much are the pecans selling for? Or the peanuts? Peanuts are cheaper. And what do we want this new mixture? We got 60 pounds of it. If we're gonna charge $3 a pound, how much money do we have in these, mixed in these nuts? It's 3 times 60, which is 1,800. So if you don't wanna do 3 times 60, what you could write here, 180. Now, how are you going to solve this? I don't care. I want to see these two equations, or what you could do is solve for P and plug it in and write that equation, I don't care. But the two answers are 40 and 20, but I want you to label it. When you find the first one, C ends up being the 40, and the P is the 20. So what does C and P stand for? Cashews and peanuts. This is what I want to see. Your two equations and your answers labeled. Now, since tomorrow is not going to have, I'm not going to have 14 questions, there's probably going to be 12. These story problems are going to be worth more points, because I have to make this test worth, is it 44, I think? I think we made this test out of 44. So to get those extra points, I have to make some of these more. I have to spread out like 6 points. Yes.
Okay, well, I still have a question on 12.
12. What's your question?
Like, to find those two answers, do you just put that equation in a calculator?
Yeah.
Like, and how do you, like, then what do you do after that?
You find out where it hits the x-axis. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in, let's do it. Let's type it in. So, new document, not going to save it. I'm going to add a graph. Okay, you're going to type in. You got to know what goes where. See this 64? You're going to swing it to the other side, because when we type this in our calculator, just like we did all those calculator problems, we want it set equal to 0. So you have negative 16x squared, and then plus 80x, and then minus 64. Whoops. Minus 64. And there you go. These are the times where it's going to reach 64 feet, here and here. This ends up being 1 second, and this ends up being 4 seconds. How do you know for sure? You're going to hit Menu, Analyze Graph, 0, and so this answer is 1, and then if you keep going, you'll get the other answer, which is 4. So if you hit Menu, now you guys showed me this. Now, does your cursor have to be in the middle when you do this, analyze graph, menu, and to get them both at the same time? Analyze graph, 0. So you pop that right, like there in the middle. And then, like what you showed me before, if you scroll that way, there's your 1, and then the other way 4. You guys get credit for that. 1 and 4. Okay?
For the next one.
For the next one, you want to know when will it reach the ground. So not 64 feet, I want to know when it hits the ground. So now this H becomes a 0. We're still on the ground. This is where is the object when you blast it. This is, you want to find it at that height, the time that it reaches that height. So this one wanted to know when is it going to reach 64 feet, and this one's saying when will it hit the ground. When will it hit the ground? That's that 0.
Why isn't the 16 squared?
Oh, because I just
Forgot.
forgot.
Did you only want us to second?
No, put them both down. Put both answers down. Does anyone have any questions?
You just plug that into the calculator.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. When you set the equation equal to 0, you're looking for the zeros. That's why you hit menu, analyze graph, and 0. Now, in the next chapter, we're going to analyze the graph, and we're going to look at where the maximum value and the minimum value is. So we're going to look at when does this reach the highest point. What is that point? That's your vertex. So we're going to look for max and mins in chapter 3. Right now, we're looking at the zeros, where it hits the x-axis.